So, welcome to COMP2142. That's Game AI 1 in the winter 2026 semester at Georgian, and it is week 4, part 1 of our broadcast and recording together. And just to, like what I normally do, go through some stuff that we want to talk to first, which is some service announcements and that kind of stuff. So I think first thing is we're sitting at week 4, and today we're going to start talking about some more steering behaviors. Things to note are that for those people who are not part of other courses for whatever reason, assignment 1A has been pushed out to Tuesday, February 3rd. It's been updated on the system, and again, this is to support Global Game Jam that's happening today, tomorrow, and Sunday. Okay, so that's what's happening. We've heard what the theme for Global Game Jam is this year is masks. Okay, that's the thing that we're going to talk more about later on for those people who are interested. But that's the theme that's happening, which again makes me think about a lot of things when I think about masks. You know, how to do that. We're also going to be talking about a little bit about AI sensing. We've talked a bit about this last semester. We kind of did this. And then the perception system I'm going to talk about very briefly, but we won't do it right now. And then the lab focus is going to be on creating a HUD and overlay, the arrival behavior, fixing up, flee and all that stuff so that people who did it, I'm going to show them, kind of the way to do it this way. And then we'll start obstacle avoidance by adding the enemy pawn and moving it around. And so that we're ready to go for next week when we actually do obstacle avoidance. Or go through it, one step at a time. There's lots of little moving parts to that one, and we'll start that next week. Okay, so that's our plan for today. But first, what I always want to start with is our assignment 1B. I want to talk about that. Right now, it is due week 6, that same week as everything else. So it's Friday, February 13th, 2026 at midnight, and it's going to include some more steering behaviors. So in the first assignment, you were asked to put together seek, flee, and arrive. And in this assignment, it's all around obstacle avoidance. That's all it's about. So this is what this whole assignment's about, obstacle avoidance. So again, you're going to build on assignment 1A. If you don't do assignment 1A, you're going to have to come up with a working version of something that you can use because it's required for this assignment to actually be a thing. So assignment 1B basically uses 1A, and it's going to modify what we have, so it kind of does obstacle avoidance, the obstacle avoidance steering behavior. So some kind of UI control, example might be a checkbox, will allow the player to toggle the visibility of any whiskers or rays, because we're going to talk about that today. And so you can see what that looks like to test obstacle avoidance. Enemy pawn placement, when the player moves the mouse over a grid tile and press the E key or middle mouse button. We're going to do that today, so that's something that's required. Obstacle avoidance algorithm, that's something that you have to do when the player presses the 4 key or related button on the user interface, then the start pawn will seek to the goal pawn using the seek algorithm while avoiding any obstacles along the way. So it's not going to always do it. It's only going to happen when you press the 4 key. Otherwise, it'll just go right through the obstacle and avoid and ignore the obstacle the way it was. There are going to be whiskers. I want you to think about whiskers as rays that the object is going to cast. And we're going to use whiskers to navigate through the scene a little bit, no matter how many enemy pawns you have in there. And then if an obstacle is detected, the enemy pawn, if the start pawn detects the enemy pawn, then the start pawn will steer away from the obstacle. And after the obstacle has been cleared, the start pawn will resume moving towards the goal pawn. So that's kind of the way it works. I also want you to have collision sounds. So if the start pawn collides with an enemy pawn or the goal pawn, the game will generate appropriate and different sound effects. Okay, so that's something that I want you to do. So you have to figure that out. And students may use a combination of blueprints and C++ as they deem appropriate. So it's really one steering behavior that I want you to master. Now, I've done this kind of stuff in different platforms. In Unity, just using C++ by itself on the web, and a bunch of different ways I've done this same kind of assignment over and over again. And I can tell you that obstacle avoidance is the most difficult thing to get right. Why? Because there's a lot of jitter sometimes that students encounter. You want to avoid being hit, and what they do, you steer away, and then the next frame you steer back. And then you steer away, and you steer back, and you steer away, and you steer back. And you keep doing that over and over again. It looks like your start pawn is having an aneurysm. Something's wrong. It's having a heart attack, while it's trying to navigate. It doesn't look good. So we got to set up a way of steering away for a certain length of time, and then after a while, steer back. And that's part of the thing that we're going to have to master with the algorithm. And I'm going to give you some of the basics, but you need to fix it, okay? Because I can't give you everything. Otherwise, it's just me doing the assignment and you just like watching me. And that's not cool. All right, so there's some parts that you have to fix on your own. So that is really the assignment. The other parts, which are DevOps and video, that's part of it. All the assignments, and you can see the breakdown is right here. Okay, there is a 20 marks I've assigned here for aesthetics for this one, and it includes things like making the UI visible and toggleable, like turning it on and off. Stuff like making UI elements like the whiskers visible and not visible, collision sounds, all that stuff is part of the aesthetics. If your sounds are too loud or if they're awful, you'll lose marks. Please don't use awful sounds. I had one group of students 1 year make farting and burping sounds the entire time, every time they collided, and it was funny at first, but then when you troubleshoot that, I'll tell you right now, and I see that over and over again because I got to play the game, man, it's annoying, right? So please don't do that. I know it sounds funny, but it's like, make it so it's appropriate. Like, take it seriously because it is worth 20 marks, right, out of 100. All right, so that is your assignment 1B, and that's due again in a couple of short weeks. This one isn't loaded full of as much workload, let's say, as assignment 2 from the other two courses. So this one I think will be a little easier to handle, believe it or not. But again, that's from my perspective. But I think that you're going to have 3 things due at the same time, so you're going to have to start pretty soon. I know that assignment 1 for each of this course and the other course are due this Tuesday, and I know some people are working on them today and over the weekend. Please don't hesitate to get going on them. They're a lot more complex than you might think, and they do take a lot of time, and you don't want to get hit with a 20% late penalty for submitting after midnight, on the Tuesday. That would be a terrible thing because you'd lose marks for nothing. And I keep saying, balance your workload, but that's the way you'd have to do it. There's quite a few things to do. So if you're not attending Global Game Jam, and most of you are not, there's an opportunity to get caught up and get these 3 things done. It'll set you up nicely for the second half of semester, as well as for your midterm test, which is coming in a few short weeks. Questions around assignment 1B for AI. I know sometimes you don't have a lot of questions until later, but this is the new one for today. All right, if you don't have any questions, then what I'm going to do is, like normal, I'm just going to stop recording this one and then start a new recording with the next piece.